Man, are the Rams really going to trade up in this draft? Some interesting stuff came out today. Diana Rossini, quote, expect the Rams to once again show interest in a tight end in the first round. Last year, Los Angeles tried and failed to move up to select Brock Bowers. I'm told Sean McVay and Les Snead could once again try to move up to get their guy. End quote. This is really interesting. So there are a lot of layers to this. I'm going to break it down. Before I do, though, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and, of course, be sure to check out, tomorrow, our draft stream, right? Downtown Rams. So it'll be on this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely hit that bell icon, and you won't miss it. So the Rams trading up first round for a tight end. Let's get into it. This can only mean three names, and I am stretching here with three names, okay? Let me just make that very clear. First off, Tyler Warren is the first name that comes to mind. Warren is the best tight end in this draft. I project he's going to be taken 7th overall by the Jets. Peter Schrager, who is really, really good at mock drafts, has a crazy hit rate, was one of the top drafts last year. He has the Jets taking Tyler Warren. So I would expect Tyler Warren to go in the top 10. Are you going to trade up for Tyler Warren? That's a little interesting. Then you have Colston Loveland out of Michigan, who I project to be taken 11th overall via trade up by the Denver Broncos. What's interesting there is who's 11 right now? It's the 49ers. So would you have to get to 10 with the Bears? Would you have to get to 11? Or it's Mason Taylor, who I have a late second round grade on. I have a second round grade on Colston Loveland as well. Mason Taylor is a player I really like, but I feel like is getting a little overrated as we get close to the draft. So the Rams only have the 26th pick, the 90th pick, the 101st pick, 3 picks in the first 2 days. They have 127th overall in the 4th round. They don't have a 5th, and they have 4 6th round picks. So let's do the math. Let's say the Rams wanted to get up to the draft, get Warren, so they'd be able to move up to 6 in this case. Let's just say this for now, right? Jets are picking at 7. Raiders are fine trading all the way down. I don't know why they would be. That's a pretty deep fall. But anyway, they're fine trading all the way down. They move down to 26 with the Rams. The Rams move up 20 spots. They take 6th overall. What would that mean? Well, the Rams would have to include next year's first-round pick and likely their 90th overall pick as well. And that might not be enough because we could talk about trade value charts all we want, and I will definitely get into that. But the reality of the situation, and it's very simple, is that trade value charts are nice and all, but when push comes to shove in the heat of the moment, you only can trade what is the market. If not everything is just going to go by the value chart, right? It's a tool, but it's not the end-all, be-all. We have seen teams spend lots of capital in that moment, in the heat of the moment, and get fleeced just because of that moment. Let's say the Rams wanted to get up to draft Colston Loveland, though. If he's taken 11th, like I believe he will be, that's a 15-pick rise for the Rams. That would force the Rams to also trade with the 49ers, like I mentioned. But I would say that's off limits because this early in the draft, they've traded with the Niners before. Okay, the Niners traded with the Rams. They moved up to get Trey Sermon a few drafts back, right? So they have done it before. But this early on, are you really going to trade a first-round pick to the 49ers? Are you really going to give up picks? I'm not touching. I'm not even going near the 49ers in any deal. But in the first round, no, I would say that's off limits. Although the Lions and Vikings have done it before. Lions traded all the way up from 32. I'll get into that. But let's just say he doesn't go at 11. 49ers stay, or for whatever reason, he falls to 12. He falls to 13. We know Indianapolis probably wants a tight end at 14. They probably want Tyler Warren, and they'd be okay with Colston Loveland if Warren doesn't fall. They're picking at 14. So the Rams, if they want Loveland, in my opinion, would have to move up to 12 or 13, right ahead of the Colts pick. And in my opinion, they're going to have to send a first-round pick in 2026 and maybe a 4th rounder in all likelihood based on that Rich Hill trade value chart. It could cost more, but the point being is you're going to have to part with a first rounder next year if you want to move up like that. So my buddy Blaine Grisak took the liberty of referencing trade packages in the past that were similar to this. The Chicago Bears, back when they moved up for Justin Fields, they moved up from 20th to 11th to draft Justin Fields. The Giants traded back to 20th, and the Giants got a 20th pick. Of course, the swap, so not a big deal. Nine pick swap. They get the 20th pick, the 164th, a future first-round pick, and a fourth-round pick to do it. So pretty decent haul there that the Bears had to give up to move up 9 spots. Then the Detroit Lions, they move up from 32 to 12 with their rival Vikings. They send the 32nd overall pick, the 34th overall pick, and the 64th overall pick to move up 20 spots. So it's happened before. You can move up 20 spots, but man, you are going to have to pay a pretty penny. The way I see it is that the Rams would be able to trade up without giving up too much because of the incredibly high valuation of the 2026 draft class. That's not something everybody can say, but I think those 2026 picks, they normally say rule of thumb. If you're wondering how much a pick in the value chart is worth, you would just take the most or the least worth pick. So if you are trading away a first rounder, a future first rounder, that acts as a late second rounder in the current draft. That's how the price is. My argument is that the way 2026 is talked about and how a lot of teams don't even want to part with 2026 draft capital and it's valuable, I would say there's a higher valuation on the 2026 draft. So those picks, I would say, are like the equivalent of an early second and maybe even a late first rounder, depending on who you're talking to. That could bode very well for the Rams and allow them to offer less this year, which at that point wouldn't have, in my opinion, wouldn't it have to be a quarterback? If you're going to give away first round pick capital in 2026 in a draft that everyone's talking about as one of the best quarterback drafts that we've seen in quite some time, and you don't have a quarterback option in the future post Stafford, like, to me, it has to be a quarterback that you're trading up for. But here it is. My take on this is simple. The Rams absolutely do not need to trade up, nor should they trade up for a tight end. I would much rather get Harold Fannin Jr. on day 2 or Mason Taylor on day 2 than trade valuable capital to move up and get Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren. I think Loveland is good. I like Loveland. I know a lot of people think I don't. I don't like the valuation of him being a first-round pick, but at the same time, I like the player. He's fun to watch. He was held back after J.J. McCarthy left. The quarterback play went down. But is he that much better than the other two? That's what you have to ask yourself. And to me, he's not. I actually had a hard time putting him ahead of Mason Taylor. I had a higher grade on Harold Fannin Jr. So I don't expect the Rams to stay at 26. And to be honest with you, I don't expect them to move up from 26, but rather trade down. However, things are getting interesting. And if the Rams could swing it, what's to stop them from throwing caution to the wind and trying to just go all the way up for a blue chip prospect? To me, you're going to trade up in the draft. You're going to give up 2026 capital. If that were the case, that needs to be a quarterback that you're doing that for, or one of the elite talents that you can't get in every draft. And there's not too many in this draft, but Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty, to me, are blue chip prospects. They're not tight ends. Those are guys that I think are going to translate. There's really not much that I'm worried about in their game. Those are the type of guys that you would trade up for. So to me, if you're going to trade up, why not just go for it all? Right? Swing for the fences. You're already going to be giving up capital. Do you want to do that for a position that in the first round has the second lowest hit rate of any position in the National Football League? In the draft, tight ends in the first round have the lowest hit rate of any position except for the wide receiver position. So studies show that the tight end sweet spot is day 2, believe it or not, of the draft. Like I just mentioned, Mason Taylor, Harold Fan Jr. would rather have him on day 2. Between picks 33 and 90, they have produced the likes of Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews. Up until 2023, there had been 57 tight ends selected between rounds 2 and 4 in the draft, and 27 of them went on to become regular starters. That's almost a 50% hit rate. Tight ends essentially are the toughest position to develop. And if you're looking at the tight end, the reason why it is so hard to develop this position, the reason why the hit rate is so low is because you're talking about a player that has to play 2 positions, essentially, a wide receiver and an offensive lineman. That is not easy. And according to ESPN producer Paul Hembekides, might have butchered his name, he did a study on first round hit rates since the 2000 draft from the 2019 NFL draft. So a 19-year span, there were 24 tight ends and only 8 of them hit. The only thing worse than that was wide receivers, 21 out of 77. Now, let me make this very clear. I am well aware if anybody is going to succeed that wasn't going to succeed in any other system, it's going to be with Sean McVay, especially tight ends. This is a former tight end coach, okay? So if you do draft Colson Loveland, if you do draft Tyler Warren, if you draft any of these tight ends, they're likely going to get one of the best, if not the best, situation put in front of them with Sean McVay. But that doesn't absolve you from the fact that when you look, the positional value is garbage. Drafting a tight end is already a lot in itself. You think of Kyle Pitts, you think of Eric Ebron, it's a lot. But when you trade up to draft a tight end, that guy better be a top 5 player at the position by year 3. That's where I'm at right now. So I actually am not against the idea of using 2026 capital. What I would love to see them do, and I'm not saying they would do it, but let's just say for a second here, the Eagles, who are sitting pretty at 32, I have them trading up with the Rams to snag Ezraku, okay, the edge defender, right before, the Ravens and other teams that would potentially draft him. But let's just say, right, instead of trading down the Rams, what if they stick and pick at 26 and then they call up Howie Roseman and they're like, look, we're just going to give you the first round pick in 2026 straight up. We want to draft Jalen Milroe at 32. We want to secure that 5th-year option. We got our guy at 26, whether that was Luther Burden, Emeka Ibuka, one of the receivers. Maybe it was a tight end. Maybe it was Mason Taylor. Maybe it was a cornerback. Maybe you got Trey Amos. I knew I would say that at some point. Or maybe it's Maxwell Hairston. Or maybe it's an edge defender, like a top guy that you just couldn't pass up. Maybe it's a tackle for the future behind Rob Havenstein. Maybe it's even a dynamic running back like a Travion Henderson or Omarion Hampton. So you couldn't pass it up, but then you're like, you know what? We really want this guy, and we're not convinced he is going to make it to our next pick at 90. So there you go. I'm just saying, I would rather have something like that where you buy a pick. I talked about this last year. I said it last year, and you have more room, more legs to stand on this year because the 2026 draft is so good and so well respected by the rest of the league that I honestly think if you called up Howie Roseman and said, would you do a first rounder next year straight up for this 32nd pick? I think he would actually consider that because that next year's pick might not be as valuable because the Rams are likely going to be one of the top teams and the Eagles' first round pick next year is likely going to be one of the lower picks. But having 2 first round picks in a draft that is considered one of the best drafts in a while, that seems like a good proposition for the Eagles, who don't have a ton of needs either. So that's something to keep in mind. But that's how I feel about this trade. I would do it if I could buy a pick and make sure that I am solidifying my quarterback position. I'll do that. But that's the only way that I move 2026 draft capital. I need to know that my quarterback is selected, taken care of, and I can move on to other things. If I'm sitting here giving away 2026 draft capital and I don't have my quarterback, then I'm really going all in and risking the future. I'm really, instead of having an opportunity to keep the window open post Stafford, I'm saying this thing's probably going to close and slam shut for a year or two when Stafford retires. And of course, the window, I'm talking about Super Bowl window. I don't care about playoff window. I would assume they're going to make the playoffs regardless, right? You'd have to assume that. But Super Bowl, that window is going to close really quickly once Stafford retires. The way to keep it open, have a quarterback waiting in the wings, developing behind the scenes, and learning the offense and learning how to play quarterback at the next level. So that way, when Stafford does hang it up, this guy is ready to go. So, in conclusion, yes, the Rams are rumored to have interest. Dianna Russini reported of trading up. They're expected to once again show interest in a tight end in the first round. For those of you who don't know, it's not just Brock Bowers. It was also Dalton Kincaid. So I think that's what's kind of leaning people in the direction of, oh, well, it wasn't just Brock Bowers, it was also Kincaid. But what I will say is this. They had interest in moving into the first round to draft Kincaid. I think they even had conversations with the Bills, who ultimately ended up taking him. They also liked Myles Murphy. But they tried hard. They tried hard to get Brock Bowers last year. No one bought. No one was biting on that. No one wanted to trade back to 19. And it's probably a good thing because they ended up with Jared Verse. But the difference between Kincaid and Brock Bowers is Brock Bowers they felt was a generational talent. Kincaid is a guy they liked. I'm not saying to not go after a tight end, but to trade up for one, to give up 2026 capital for a position that routinely misses the mark, that to me is not the smartest move. I would rather buy a pick like I had in my last year's mock draft. I had the Rams trading up for Olu Fashanu, and I also had them getting another Nittany Lion using that 2025 first round pick and buying a selection at 32 and taking Chop Robinson. I think this year you have more of a chance to do it this year because, again, the valuation of the 2026 draft is a lot higher than the 2025 draft. We'll see how it goes. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Do you think the Rams should trade up for Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren? Do you think they should focus on the tight end position on day 2? Or should they just not really look at the tight end position? Let me know in the comment section below. But that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Check out my final mock draft will be coming out later today. So keep an eye on that. Plenty of content coming your way. And then, of course, we have the draft stream tomorrow. So can't wait for that. You guys take care. I'll see you soon. Later, folks. All right, guys. So once again, just want to let you guys know that you can check out my new side project, The Lounge. I interview athletes, musicians, actors, actresses, all the nine. So definitely check it out over on the Lounge with Jake Ellenbogen channel. Be sure to subscribe and enjoy. In case you guys haven't noticed, I do have a Discord channel for my community on this channel. And if you want to be a part of it, it is free. The link is in the description below. You can sign up. This is basically a 24/7 Rams channel, and we are almost at 1,100 members. So if you want to be a part of it, just hit the link in the description below.